What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to our Supabase social app series brought to you in partnership with Supabase. This is the final part, or part 5 of the series, where we are going to be introducing server-side functions, or as they're called in Supabase, edge functions. So here's what we're going to be doing. We are going to be implementing a post count for the number of posts that a user has in the application. So in this case, Goku has 8 posts. And we are going to be introducing an edge function to help us accomplish this. So guys, before we dive into setting up our edge functions and stuff, I want to talk about what the difference is between a server-side function, or in this case, an edge function, and client-side function. So let's dive into a little diagram here. So client-side code, which is everything we have up to this point basically, is responsible for displaying our UI and interactivity. So it runs on the user's browser, it says here, but in this case, it's our mobile device and is untrusted. So the difference between that and server-side code is that server-side code runs on a server and is seen by users. So we are going to be deploying actual functions to our server to perform actions for us. And we can see that this is responsible for controlling central resources, permission checks, and handling secret information. So here's the breakdown of what we're going to do. So if we get our Supabase database opened up in our app dashboard, what we're going to do is when a user makes a post, we are going to activate a trigger that will then update data somewhere else. In this case, it's going to be our users table. So we're going to deploy a function to our server that listens for when a post gets uploaded to this table, takes a look at the user ID that uploaded that post, and then it will automatically go and update our user table with a field that we're going to add here to keep track of our post count. So the alternative to this would be to just do everything from the client. Hey, we uploaded a post. Now make an additional API call to update our users table. But in this case, we're only going to have to make one API call or upload to our post table, and our server is going to handle the rest of the work for us. So we can see here that this is extremely powerful in increasing the performance capability of our application by removing load from the client and placing that load onto the server, as we see here in this diagram. If you build an app where everything is, all the work is performed by the client, your app is not going to be as performant as placing some of that load or a significant amount of that load or work onto the server. For example, if you need to perform complex operations like algorithms or ranking algorithms or complex work with processing images and stuff, you don't want to do all of that on the client because you are going to drain your battery and you are limited to the resources of your device. In this case, it's just a phone. Whereas if we can place a lot of that load onto the server, our app is going to be a lot more performant, smooth, and faster. So this is a really simple example for the purposes of this tutorial, but it's going to give you guys the foundation you need to start implementing server-side functions to increase the performance or optimize the performance of your applications. And before we get started, if you guys want access to the source code for not just this video, but this entire project and all of the projects that we have ever done on YouTube and will do in the future, the link for this is in the description. For a one-time fee of $59, you guys get access to the entire YouTube source code catalog for app stuff. So on our YouTube channel, you guys can see that we have full-length app clone builds. I just launched one with building a machine learning app in Swift UI. Take-home interviews, that's an hour-and-a-half long video. For just $59, you can get access to all of that source code, guys. And if you're serious about leveling up, you can become a member here with us at App Stuff to access all of our Pro and Pro Plus courses. That's right, Pro Plus courses are now included in the membership, guys. Before, these were only available to buy outright for $1,000. These are production-grade applications or courses that teach you how to build apps that can handle millions of users. I used to work at Meta on Instagram and Messenger, and I built app clones that model how those apps are built at the highest level. These are industry-guarded secrets. That's why these courses cost so much money. But if you guys want to become a member here with us for just $42 a month, you can get access to all of those courses, as well as our Pro app clones and fundamentals courses as well, that include things like the new AI and ML course, the Mastering Swift Concurrency course, intermediate and advanced fundamentals, as well as all of our Pro app clones with things like Instagram, Airbnb, Threads, Tinder, TikTok. We have a plethora of incredible material here that will level up your career. If you're trying to become a junior, mid, or senior level engineer, we have courses for everybody. You guys can check out our learning paths to see where you fit in and where you need to get started and how to progress. we have that all laid out for you. And guys, if you're looking to become a member, the monthly cost is going to increase to $49 a month next week at the time of this video. I'm making this on October 30th. By November 7th, the price of this will increase in 2025. And that is because we are adding the Pro Plus courses as an addition to the membership. So you guys get access to thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars worth of material by simply becoming a member with us for $40 a month. So make sure you check out the source code. We also have free cheat sheets and guides here, guys. So I have an interview book that I wrote myself for $29, but we also have free cheat sheets with Swift concurrency and iOS interview tips and tactics. And those are free. So all of this is available on the website. The link is in the description, guys. Let's go ahead and get started with building out the final part of our Supabase app series here. So to get started, we are going to open up Xcode and we are going to update our user model to include a post count. So let's go ahead and go do a quick open, do Command-Shift-O and open up our user.swift file. And we are just going to go here and create a variable for post count. And it's going to be an integer. So guys, if we try to build our code now, we should get an error and we are going to need to update our user object in the relative places to include this post count. So here we see that if we click on that error, it takes us to our Supabase auth service and we are in this function upload user data. We need to now add this post count property. Obviously, when we create a user, they don't have any posts. So we're just going to make that 0. So if we try to hit Command B to build again, we should notice those errors are gone and our build succeeds. Next up, we are going to hop into our user profile view and we are going to add a section to display our post count. So we have our header section here. You guys can find the closing bracket of that by clicking on the opening one. And right in between that and our sign out section, we can just go ahead and add this section for our post count here. It's going to be just usermanager.currentUser.postCount and we'll give it a default value of 0. So let's go ahead and run our application now to see if this is showing up in our user profile, and then we will move on to our Supabase configuration. So our app is now up and running. We go to our profile and we can see that we have our post section displaying with 0 posts. So next up, we are going to hop into Supabase and update our user table. So with our app dashboard open back up, we can go to our user table here by clicking on that arrow. And now, guys, we are going to find our user table, click on these 3 dots here, and we are going to say that we want to edit our table, and we're simply going to add a column. So this is going to be called post count, and this is going to be an integer. So we could make this like int 8, just in case the user has a ton of posts. It's an 8-bit integer. The default value will not be null, it will be 0, and we will hit save. So we can see that now our table is it's updating. And if we scroll all the way to the right, we can see that our post count is now updated on both of our users here and has a value of 0. And let's go back and build and run our project one more time with Command R just to make sure we're successfully decoding that new field that is coming from Supabase and it reads our current user or decodes our current user successfully. And we get our feed launching here and we see that everything is still good to go with our user and we're successfully decoding that data that's now coming from Supabase. So next up, guys, we are going to go back to our Supabase dashboard and we are going to go to the Edge function documentation. So you guys can Google Supabase Edge functions and it'll come up with the documentation. It starts in the overview. We're going to hop into the quick start dashboard section. So this walks us through how to create Supabase Edge functions in their dashboard. So something that I really like about this compared to Firebase is that we can create Edge functions directly from our app dashboard and we don't have to do it through the command line interface. You can if you go to the Quick Start CLI section, but this is much cleaner and they provide a really user-friendly interface to do so. So let's go into our app dashboard now, go to our left side menu, and we're going to go to Edge functions here. So this is where we can deploy Edge functions to handle complex business logic, as we can see. And we're going to deploy this via the editor. So we're going to say open editor. And you guys will see that it gives us a base function to start with that we can test. So it gives you a randomly generated name. You can call it whatever you want. Let's just go ahead and hit deploy function. So now we have a function deployed on our server. We can go back to the overview here and we can see a bunch of stats regarding our edge function, how many invocations, the average execution time of our function, CPU time, memory, so on and so forth. If we just click on or just go back to the edge functions overview, we'll see that this is our deployed function here. So now what we're going to want to do is test this function. So let's go ahead and click into it. And we're going to go to the details section, and up in the upper right hand corner, we have a test button. So we're going to hit that, and this is going to automatically test this function using an authorized request to the URL, and we can just hit send request. And you guys will notice that we get a message back that says hello functions. So that might not seem like much, but let's go ahead and take a look at what this is really doing. We can see here that we have a request body. So really quickly, let's go back to the code for the function. We were passing in the name functions to that request body. So if we go here, this function is going to look at the request and give us back a message that says hello and whatever the name we passed into that function is. So let's go ahead and just change this. We could say like testing name to see if this works, right? And we can hit deploy updates, go ahead and deploy them. And let's go back to our details section, go back to the test, and let's go ahead here and say Stefan. And I'm going to now send this request, and we'll see that the response that I get back is equal to exactly what I configured in my code, testing Stefan to see if this works. So basically, guys, we made a request to our URL, and it gave us this response back. So this is the basic implementation of an edge function. So we're going to get a little bit more complex here and say that, hey, when a user makes a post to the post table, I want the server to go ahead and perform a secondary action of updating my user table with the new post count. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So let's close out of this and let's click our functions in the manage pane, and we are going to say deploy a new function via editor. And they give us the same body here. I'm going to go ahead and paste in the code that we are going to need for the function that we're going to be setting up here. And you guys can pause the video and type this out. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick breakdown of it. So basically, we are going to make a request to a particular URL, and we are going to get a payload associated with that. And we are going to be looking at this new post, which is the payload.record. And then we are going to grab the user ID from that post, okay? And if for some reason there's no user ID there, we're going to return a missing user ID response with a status code of 400. So next up, guys, we need to create our Supabase client. This is much like we did in our Swift code base, where we have to get our Supabase database URL and our secret key. And then here on line 18, we are going to use our Supabase client to call this function here, and it's going to be called increment number of posts. And we're going to create this function here in a little bit, but that's going to be in charge of taking a look at our current user's number of posts and then incrementing it +1 after we have successfully uploaded a post. So then if an error happens, we're going to throw that. And if it's good to go, we're going to return a 200 response and say post count incremented. And if anything goes wrong during that process, we're going to have this catch block here that returns an error response here as well. So let's go ahead and call this function on-post-create. Once again, make sure you guys get this all typed out, and we're going to go ahead and hit deploy function. And if you guys want access to the source code for this, the link is in the description for that. So you can check that out. And you'll also get access to all of the source code that we do here on our YouTube channel. So now we have our edge function created, guys. If we go back to our functions here, we can see that we have this on post create function, right? So next up, this is going to be something that's really fun and interesting to do. We need to write some SQL code to actually increment the number of posts that we have. So we're going to go to our left menu here, and we're going to go to the SQL editor. And I'm going to paste in the code that we need to do that. So it's going to be called this create or replace function called increment num posts. And the input parameter is going to be a user ID, which is a text parameter. It's going to return void. We're going to use Postgres here, and we're going to say that we want to update our user table. And this is actually going to be called set post count. and we're going to say coalesce post count to be whatever it was previously plus 1, where the user ID is equal to the user ID that we pass in here. So something that we need to make sure of, guys, is when you say set, because we did camel casing here, SQL databases prefer underscores. So we maybe should have set it up like this, but we have it set up with camel casing. Make sure you put quotes around that. So make sure you have this typed out exactly as you see here. So if we now go ahead and hit run, we should see success, no rows returned. That means we don't have any syntax errors or anything. So let's go back to our edge function code and see how this is going to work. So we go to our edge functions and we go to on post create and we go back to our code. This is the function that we just created to increment our number of posts. And we had to write some SQL code that runs that function to actually go and look at the number of posts that the user has based on the user ID parameter and then increment it plus 1. So just to do a quick recap of everything here, let's go to our database and let's take a look at our post table. So when we upload a post to this table here, and that happens from our client, right? If we go to create post service, this is where we are actually creating a post. So once again, the alternative here would be to say try await client.from users, and we would increment our user post count from our client. We're not doing that. We're simply uploading a post to our post table, and then we're putting the rest of the work onto the server. Once again, this is a pretty simple example for the purposes of this tutorial. These processes can get very, very complex. Imagine all of the stuff that happens when you upload a post on Instagram. It's got to update everyone's feeds. It's got to put that post through a ranking algorithm. It's got to process those images, so on and so forth, right? You don't want to do that from the client. Right now, our client is super lightweight, and all it's in charge of is uploading a post to the database because that information has to come from the client. All of the secondary processes that we want to be performed are going to be placed on the server. So that's the whole logic behind what we're doing here. So once again, let's go back to this. When we upload a post here, it's going to trigger our cloud function. It's going to then execute that code or that function that we just wrote and update our user post count field here in our user table. And the final remaining piece of this puzzle to get this to work, guys, is going to be to set up a webhook. So before we do that, and I will explain exactly what a webhook is and why it is needed, let's go back to our edge functions and on post create, let's go ahead and copy this URL here. So let's go back to our database section, and then in the platform section, you're going to see webhooks here. So this sends real-time data from your database to another system when a table event occurs. So that's exactly what we want here. When a table event occurs, i.e. we add a post object to our post table, we want to increment our post count, and we're going to do so by creating this webhook that is going to activate that function. So let's go to webhooks. We're going to say create a new hook. We're going to call this posts webhook. We're going to select the table that we want. So let's go ahead and I think, can we just type out post here? Public posts. So guys, scroll down to the public section and you'll see the two tables that we have created here. We're going to say posts. The events, we're going to say insert. So basically we want this webhook to execute when we insert a new object on our post table. And type of webhook is going to be a Supabase edge function. And if you guys scroll down, you're going to see that we have a post method, and select which edge function to trigger. We are going to hit this drop down and we're going to say on post create. Timeout is 5,000 seconds. These all look good. We don't need any HTTP parameters or anything like that. You guys are going to go ahead and hit save webhook. Mine says update because I had this set up previously. So go ahead and hit that. And now we should be all good to go, guys. So what we're going to do is really quickly, in my app, Goku previously had 2 posts. I made a bunch of test posts when I was debugging this stuff. So however many posts your particular user has, let's just go to the database really quickly. Let's go to our users guy and just make sure you update that to make sure this increments the values accurately. And let's go ahead, guys, and just do a fresh run of our project. And Goku for me actually has like 10 posts now because of all the testing I did. But right now it's currently set at 2. So we should basically just see this increment to 3 once we make a post. So I'm going to say testing edge function again. Hopefully it's the last time. Went through a lot of debugging here. Let's hit post and let's go back to our Supabase table and let's refresh this. And boom, look at that, boys and girls. It automatically increments our post count. And from our client, if we go back to our create post service, we just make one API call. We didn't have to make a separate call to increment our post count from the client. The server is doing that for us. So that is absolutely incredible, guys. And like I said, this is a super simple example for the purposes of this tutorial. If you guys are building applications, you should ask yourself, hey, how much work do I want the client to do? And how much work do I want my server to do? Your server is much more powerful, much less error prone. Like your server is not going to have a battery die or your Wi-Fi connection go out, right? Imagine you have to perform some complex process after you create a post, which in a real social media app, you absolutely have to do. And during that, your user's phone dies and the process cuts off halfway through. Then you're obviously going to have problems with data consistency in your application. It's going to drain a lot more of your user's battery life. It's going to make a lot more API requests from your client as opposed to doing that from the server, which is going to utilize more data on the client. And ultimately, it's just more performant to add heavy workloads to your server as opposed to doing them from the client. So the takeaway here, the TLDR, is that you want to keep your client as lightweight as possible. So all we're doing here is uploading a post, and then the server can handle the rest of the complex stuff. Overall leads to more performant applications. And if you guys want access to the source code for this project, the link is in the description. For a one-time fee, you guys can get access to all of the source code that we have here available on our YouTube channel, past, present, and future. So on our YouTube channel, guys, we have a ton of amazing tutorials and videos that include things like full complete app clones. Like, for example, we have a really popular TikTok clone here that I built here in 2025. I just launched a video teaching you how to build a machine learning app in Swift UI. And we also have a full course for AI and ML for iOS developers. You guys get access to all of that stuff. And if you want to take a step up further into the full pro level content, you guys can check out our courses at appstuff.io. We have a bunch of fundamentals, including the AI and ML course that was just launched. We have Swift concurrency, intermediate and advanced fundamentals of Swift, our pro app clones as well. And guys, this teaches you how to build things from scratch, including back-end engineering with Firebase and building an entire app like Instagram from scratch. There's free previews of this on YouTube, and the full pro versions are here on the website. And if you guys want to take it a step further with our Pro Plus tier, this teaches you how to build production-grade applications that can handle millions of users. These are fully led by myself, an ex-Meta engineer, where I peel back the curtain on industry-guarded secrets on how apps at the highest levels work. So if you guys are serious about launching an application that can scale, make sure you check out our Pro Plus applications. And this is actually now available in our Diamond membership. So before I had these gate kept, you couldn't access these unless you were a lifetime member. Now, if you guys become a member with us for just $42 a month, the price is increasing by Friday to $49 a month with the inclusion of the Pro Plus courses, which are $1,000 to buy outright. For just $42 a month, you guys can get access to every single thing we have here on the website. So the annual membership saves you about 50%, just $299 a year as opposed to paying $42 a month. And you guys get access to our GitHub source code repos, all of our video tutorials, Pro Plus, and Fundamentals, including the new AI and ML course. And it's really just a phenomenal deal, guys. So make sure you go and take a look at our website at appstuff.io. The link is in the description for that. And join up with us if you are serious about taking your career to the next level, or if you're serious about launching an application that can handle millions of users at scale, right? Go big or go home. Thanks for watching this one, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.